An enduring symbol of Starfleet serving throughout the last half of the 23rd century, the Constitution-class heavy cruiser was built in several different variants during an unusually long production run, several of these variants having next to nothing in common with one another. As a result of these differences, some experts argue that the Constitution class is, in reality, several completely separate classes bearing the same name for a combination of political and strategic reasons. Standpoint of this video, the first two batches of Constitution are treated as the same class. However, the third batch of vessels, commonly known as the Constitution II, are considered separate classes and will not be covered here and instead receive its own video at some point in the future. The Constitution class has a length of 289 meters, is 129 meters wide, and 70 meters tall. The vessel has a maximum crew of 500, with a cruising speed of warp factor 6.2 and a maximum speed of warp factor 8.8 on the old scale. The class was armed with 6 twin and 4 single phaser emitters, with 2 photon torpedo launchers mounted. Both the Batch 1 and Batch 2 have identical armaments, though the position of the torpedo launchers differs between the two subclasses. For much of its early history, Starfleet relied on smaller cruisers to perform the patrol and exploratory missions it was tasked with performing. Often these vessels were armed with only very light weaponry, relying on their speed and agility to survive in combat against any hostile forces they encountered. The inclusion of the new phasers in the Asia class and its derivatives helped improve this situation somewhat. But even so, during the early years of the 4 Years' War, Starfleet struggled in engagement after engagement against much better armed Klingon D5 and D6 class cruisers. Partial solution to these shortcomings was the increasing armament of the cruisers built during the war, with the late war Ticonderoga class cruisers being significantly larger and better armed than the Asia class on which it was based on. Starfleet began a new heavy cruiser program in 2247 after taking time to learn all they could from the war, with a total of 17 submissions being made from various Starfleet production yards. The winning submission would come from San Francisco Fleet Yards. Using the Ticonderoga as a starting point, the class, at this stage known as Large Cruiser Type A, was larger, faster, heavier armed, and longer ranged than anything which had come before it. Externally resembling an enlarged Asia class, this new cruiser would see its first vessels ordered in 2248, 12 ships in total being ordered and laid down in this first batch. USS Constitution entered service with Starfleet in 2253 after completing her shakedown cruise without issue. The remaining ships of the class, including the original USS Enterprise, would all enter service during the rest of the decade. Initially, the class was deployed on alternating periods of patrol and exploration, spending time both along the Romulan and Klingon borders for a period where their performance could be monitored before being sent on their own to explore frontier regions. It would be these exploratory missions that would earn the Constitution class its legendary status, with the missions undertaken by the Enterprise in particular earning a place of honor amongst the annals of Starfleet's sterling historical record. However, the class did also take part in many standoffs with first the Klingon and later also Romulan empires taking place, which occasionally resulted in ship-to-ship combat. 12 original ships ordered would serve with the 2nd, 4th, and 5th fleets, with the vessels taking increasingly and surprisingly heavy losses during the mid-2260s in a variety of novel accidents that, while not showcasing any significant defects of the class, did convince Starfleet of the need to pull the class from dangerous, unsupported exploratory missions and towards more defense-minded assignments along the frontiers. In 2261, a further 8 ships were initially ordered to a slightly modified design, becoming the Constitution Batch 2. These ships, supplemented by a further 4 ordered in 2264 to replace several lost examples, were similar in most ways to the initial Constitutions, using the same reactor, sensors, shields, and phasers. The primary difference between the two batches being in the form of new nacelles and the movement of the ship's photon torpedo tubes from the ventral saucer to a new location at the base of the neck connecting the saucer to the drive section. In time, all surviving Batch 1 ships would receive refits to bring them to the standards of the new ships by 2267. The newly reinforced Constitution fleet greatly bolstered Starfleet during a time of ever-rising tensions with the empires surrounding the Federation, with many of the class's planned exploratory missions put on hold to keep them along the border, where their impressive firepower was seen as being most useful. During the period, only the USS Enterprise and USS Hornet would be engaged in meaningful exploration, spending much of their time in the hotly contested Arcanus sector, where they frequently encountered and often sparred with Klingon forces. It would be in response to these ever-rising tensions, as well as several other factors, that would lead Starfleet to construct the final Constitution variant, known officially as the Constitution Batch 3, and informally as the Constitution 2. This much improved class, in many ways, was a completely new design. It was much more advanced in nature, so different in fact that the ships will be dealt with in its own video separately in the future. Seeing service at a time of rising galactic tensions and amazing scientific discoveries, the first variants of the Constitution class would make a major impact at the time they entered service, both as explorers and, when called on, warships, entering the common memory for their exploits, with the names of several vessels of the class going on to see further use in successive Federation starships in the centuries to come. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, let me know if there's some weird audio stuff going on. I'm recording this on a totally different computer from what I've used before. Just paused it there. And also, I'm recording this in a car because it was the quietest place I could think of, and it's kind of raining. There's going to be a lot of noise. Yeah, you can probably hear in the background. I don't know how bad it was in the video. I had a blanket over my head, actually, and it was very hot to make the recording. So you might have picked up on some of that. Also, like, the microphone might have been rubbing on my beard. I tried to stop it when I could think of it, but I don't know if I always did. I am going to listen through these, and if the audio is really bad, I'm just going to scrap it and try again tomorrow when hopefully it's not raining and I can get to do this a little better. But we'll see. Also, I'm recording this on a new editing software, so we're going to see how that goes, but that will be interesting as well. So anyway, yeah. If you've heard some weird audio stuff, do let me know, but that's why it's raining, car, blanket, beard, over mic kind of thing. If that makes sense. But yeah, if you did somehow enjoy the video, and if you did hear audio distortion through the entire video, watched it, got to this point and thought, oh god, this is an acceptable standard, maybe it is, I don't know. Meh. I'm not a professional here. Don't know what to tell you. But I hope it sounded alright for a kind of quick bodge job. We'll see, though. If you're hearing this, I think it worked, but your mileage may vary.